I'm Jim Isaac. I'm the director, Jeyshawnx.
This is Todd Farmer. I'm the resident writer of Jeyshawnx and or Monkey with the Keyboard.
I'm Noel Cunningham. I was the producer on the picture.
We were actually doing some development work for Sean, for Freddy Jason. And I had actually called Sean and told him, you need to do a Jason movie. And we were in the middle of developing Freddy Jason, and he said, no, I don't want to do it. So I went off and oversaw the visual effects for Existence for David Cronenberg and came back and said, so what's going on with Freddy Jason? And he said, hey, nothing, same old thing. So it was about that time that I said, hey, let's do a Jason movie.
I had been working for Crystal Lake Entertainment trying to develop Freddy versus Jason, and that was getting bogged down. You know, we'd been developing it for, 7 years. And at that point we thought, well, didn't look like Freddy Jason was going anytime soon, so we decided to do another Jason movie. Jim, Todd, and I sat down around a table and just came up with every single scenario we could think of. Jason in the snow, Jason in New York, Jason in LA, fighting gang members. I mean, it was just, we're throwing everything out. And once we had a list, we decided that the space idea, though it had been done unsuccessfully a number of times before, was the one that let us explore more options that we could do with the series and the characters. The space setting gave us plenty of new toys to play with and fight Jason with, which nobody had ever really done before.
One of the things that I liked about the idea was that I had trouble with the other Jason movies where you have a team, a group of people who don't have any clue about what's happening to them. They're stuck in a lake. Right. One by one, a couple's off in the woodshed. Someone's over underneath a car. They're getting murdered. They're getting sliced up. They're having sex, and there's no connection between them, and they have no clue that they're in jeopardy. So they're not proactive. They can't do anything about it.
Jeyshawnx is substantially different from the other movies because of that fact. Right. Because within, 20 minutes into the movie, everybody knows who's doing the killing.
Right, and the whole point was to put them in a situation. That's why I like Jason in Space and I like the future, is to put these kids in a situation where they're hopefully smarter, they've got cooler tools, the technology is more advanced, so we can come up with anything we want.
And plus, at the time, it's the only Jason movie we could have gotten made. There's no way we could have told a sequel to Jason Goes to Hell with Freddy vs. Jason in development.
My goal was, when I talked to Sean, was, as you remember, I sat down with him and said, hey, let me put my team together. And these are guys that I've worked with for years and years and years. My first film was
Cronenberg guys,
but also Kelly Lipkowski, who I've worked with since Gremlins. And we did all the creatures, the puppets and things in Gremlins, and got a chance to work with Joe Dante and all these guys.
So you met Spielberg?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did, actually.
Okay,
he's a cool guy. He liked the little fellas. We worked with Bob Zemeckis on Romancing the Stone, and we did Enemy Mine with Wolfgang Peterson. And the opportunity was great because we were working at a time where no one knew what the hell little puppets were. So we were able to work with directors one-on-one. So these guys I've been with since then, right. And through The Fly with the Academy Award. So anyway, these guys, I called them up and said, hey, let's do Jason. We're going to do a Jason movie. Are you on board? My idea was that Sean was like, let's put this team together of creative people and make a movie better than maybe you'd expect from a Jason 10. So anyway, at the end of that meeting, we came out with Jason in Space, and Sean said, okay, Todd, you go write it. Jim, you direct it. Noel, you produce it, and go make a movie.
Right. He basically, as Sean said, look, this doesn't sound like my kind of movie. You guys go make it. And so that was the intention.
Yeah, he said, I don't like these kind of movies. It's not my kind of thing. You guys go do it. And you wrote a script in about 3 weeks. You and I talked back and forth. We wrote a script. We went into Mike DeLuca's office at New Line and pitched the idea, gave him a script, and he loved it. We pulled the team together. I wanted to go up to Canada because I'd done a bunch of movies up there, a lot of David Cronenberg's crews and production managers, the whole support teams. I mean, I've been in Toronto forever. I did The Fly there. Yeah. That's where I met David Cronenberg, and that was great. And all of his
You met Cronenberg on The Fly?
Yeah, well, we did The Fly for him. So it's hard not to meet the director when you're actually shooting. I know you've never made a movie before.
That's the first time.
But, yeah.
That's the first time you met him?
Yes, that is the first time on The Fly. I did all the stuff for Naked Lunch. David called back, and we did all the creatures for Naked Lunch and back up to Toronto for Existence. David was very supportive of my desire to get out of kind of effects and move into directing, and he was really one who said, hey, when you get back, you got to direct a movie. And that's what kind of pushed me to talk to Sean about Jeyshawnx and this and that. And the way he got into the movie was I wanted to use his assistant as a production assistant up there to help me kind of get the ball rolling up there, to be my liaison up there before I could get up there. So she's been his assistant forever, and she's a good friend. And so I said, look, can you help me set up stage space and do this and do that? I got a call back saying that it's okay. I can work with you for a while. David won't, doesn't mind losing me for a while as long as you give him a part in the movie, which I thought was very cool. And then we actually wrote that part with David in mind. And then on the day, directing him was great because I actually had some issues with the scene. I was able to talk to him about it in his trailer, and he came in with a rewrite. I don't know if I ever told you that.
I remember that.
He came in that morning and goes, oh, Jim, I got this, I kind of rewrote the scene. And he did. He came up with that great line of
soft.
I don't want him frozen rolling. I want him soft. That's a really good Cronenberg line. It was a really good moment. It was a fun day.
Historically, with the Friday the 13th movies, the Motion Picture Association has been really, really brutal. Understandably so. There's very little redeeming value in killing a bunch of naked campers. We actually lucked out. And maybe it's because, we were trying to make a good movie. And it wasn't just campers in the woods, which the rest of the Friday series has been. There were very few places where they really hammered us, and one of them was when David Cronenberg gets skewered. We shot it dry, we shot it with a little bit of blood, and then we shot it with an excessive amount of blood. They really didn't like the excessive amount of blood there, so fortunately we thought ahead and shot a version of it with it slightly drier, so we don't have the bad cut and the really quick cutaway that sometimes you find in the excessive shots. Our deaths were much more creative and of the moment, I guess, and less just gratuitous, guts and blood and everything spewing into the camera.
I actually have some very strong opinions about violence in film, TV. I think that people are completely wrong when they try to tie in films or violence on TV to real violence and make it the film's problem or the TV show's problem. I mean, I have kids, and my kids know the difference between real violence and pretend violence, and they know the difference between right and wrong. And I think it's absolutely critical to, one, give kids, and it's kids because they're the ones who are most vulnerable to this. You hope that by the time you're an adult, you get it. So there's a time when you're a young kid where you're developing all this stuff, and so you need to get the right signals. And if kids don't have things to do, if they don't have either, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's extra stuff to do, they go to school, they come home, they have a choice. You can sit them in front of a TV for X amount of hours. It's not what they watch, it's how much time they spend there. Because how much time they spend watching crap means they're not doing a bunch of other stuff. And if you have other interests and you're doing all these other things, then when you do, people are going to watch TV, but when you are watching TV or watching movies, you understand that that's a TV show, it's fake, it's entertainment, and you choose to watch it or not to watch it. There's times in your life where you can process information correctly. My feeling is basically you can't start censoring stuff. You have to teach people to process information, know what it is, and make choices. Turn the TV off. Don't see the movie until it's ready to be seen.
For those of you who don't know and didn't pay attention to the credits and notice the similarity in my last name, which is Cunningham, and Sean's last name, which is also Cunningham, we are related, I'm his son. I had been working for Sean as an assistant editor and then was given the opportunity to jump into the development side of things. And that was really interesting because I'd spent so much time in post-production where, they say there's 3 films that are made for each film. The film that's written, the film that's shot, and then the film that's cut together. And they're usually 3 entirely different movies. Having the experience of the film that was shot and the film that was cut together, this allowed me to take all that knowledge I'd learned back then and try to apply it to the script before we actually shot scenes. It's kind of like editing in reverse. I was hopefully able to use a lot of those talents to cut a lot of scenes before we even shot them, just knowing that they weren't going to make the cut.
Our opening scene, as I remember it in our original script, was very cool because we actually started
on Earth
in this wasteland. You open up on a wasteland
we started on Earth in the future.
In the future, yeah. It's a wasteland, it's a huge storm, a windstorm, and you introduce these guys. And
the idea was like an Indiana Jones kind of thing.
Yeah, and the whole pitch there was the idea that there are these kids on a field trip going to Earth 1 and digging up trinkets or bottle caps or whatever it is to study.
Old CDs.
Yeah, and that's what they do. They
Matchbox
it's a
cars.
science class, just a science class. And they, of course, dig up Jason, and they dig up maybe another person that's frozen.
We had a massive action sequence.
Yeah, what happened was...
You even had animation.
We had a whole
these
test shot
robots
done.
and
Spiders, mechanical spiders and stuff. They would go down underneath, much like the scene right now, but it would have happened earlier. But they go down, they lose a couple of kids because they're off dusting off stuff. We think it's like some kind of cool thing. It turns out to be an old condom, like a Trojan condom, and they like dust it off, and they're like, "Oh, expiration date is, let's test it out." And they start going at it, and they fall through, and they end up in this underground cavern, and it's all creepy, and there's dead bodies, and there's all this kind of cool stuff, and they find Jason in this weird place. And then once they get him out, we had this security system kicks on, and there's this mechanical system, and there's all these spiders and all this mechanical stuff, and it just chews the crap out of them. Machine guns fighting. It was what?
It's a fun idea. The idea is you're fighting to get Jason Voorhees' body out and up into space so that he can then kill you.
We even at one point where he even kills a kid because one of the spiders shoots this laser and it ricochets off his machete that's frozen and hits like Kickers and one of the guys on the arm. So it's even like when frozen, he's dangerous. But anyway, so they battle to get this find out of this weird place and up to the ship. And then while Rowan is waking up, she flashbacks. She has these kind of violent flashbacks of what happened 400 years in the past. It shows how Jason got frozen, shows how Jason killed all these people, shows how she did this cool thing to freeze him and freeze herself accidentally. And it was all done in a flashback. Sean just didn't think that worked, and he wanted to do it more linear. We fought that battle, and we lost it.
Did I fight that battle?
Well, you were drunk somewhere. I don't think you fought that battle. I don't know.
I was not drunk. You're thinking of someone else.
You were just rewriting. You didn't care about anything. So anyway, we changed it. You went off and changed it. So we have more of a linear story, and it's the same story. It's just it's not exactly what we talked about, but I like this scene a lot.
Amazing. Absolute museum quality.
You were in Toronto how long?
15 years. From the time we started shooting, from the time that we actually finished. It was a grueling shoot, but I think we got almost everything we need. No, that was what, a year? Yeah, about a year.
I know you went off and on for a long time.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted in the story was at some point I wanted our characters not only to know what was going on, but to do something about it.
Fight back.
Right. So we had this idea where we would create a monster of some kind, a robot or something cool out of the technology and just blow the crap out of Jason and literally just blow him to pieces. It turns out that character KM is what that turned out to be, but
Lisa Ryder.
But we went ahead and drew a bunch of things of Uber Jason, which were once Jason's destroyed, we wanted to create something new.
Right. Well, which was always supposed to be, or at least in my mind, it was supposed to be a surprise. We didn't exactly get the
It's hard to
surprise.
have a surprise when you finish a movie and then it doesn't open for a year and a half.
Yeah, but early
no
on,
surprises.
even before we started shooting, I mean, there were rumors that we had Uber Jason. He was supposed to be the last act of the movie, but
yeah. But part of it is we had the battle. We talked about it. The marketing campaign. It was Uber Jason was cool looking. It was important and was whatever they used to sell it. But yeah, ideally we wanted to keep that as a secret. Well, the week we delivered it to New Line is the week Mike DeLuca left. So we had a movie sitting on the shelf, and by the time it came out, I think everybody had already seen it, already downloaded it. So
well, it was a high-rated bootleg.
It was. Yeah, I heard you made some money on that bootleg.
Oh boy, did I! Well, you got to make your money somewhere.
There you go. This shot right here is actually very much like what we had talked about the original look to be from the opening.
Right.
And this is about, 15, 16 different composites, which is just a matte painting. It's one of our bigger effects moments. We just had guys walking in the distance, and the rest is all CG. The smoke is CG. The clouds are a matte painting. This ship is. And the effects on this show, now we're talking about effects. We have something like 350 visual effects in this movie. My goal in this whole thing was to try to see if we can put the money on the screen and tap into some connections I've had before. The company that did all the stuff for me is Toybox. And I hired them originally on Existence, and they did the two-headed bug for me and a couple of composite shots and a couple of things. They're really good, and the guy that runs the shop, or did at the time, is Dennis Berardi. Hey, there you are, look. Look at your bald head.
Good-looking fella.
Dennis Berardi, who runs Toybox, again, he was one of the first guys I called and said, hey, I'm doing this movie. I've only got a little bit of money, and I really wanted to try to fill it with effects. Are you on board?
Right.
So they signed up, and thank God they did, because we actually did so much through them. We shot this movie on film, as you know.
Well, the movie looks great.
Oh, they did a great,
This is the first movie with as much color as...
It's also the very first movie, and this is the truth, very first movie that's 100% digital, meaning we didn't shoot it digitally, but we shot it on film.
Transferred.
And then we transferred it to high definition, and then scanned everything back to film, and it worked great. Like, this is a huge effects moment, and
Right.
we couldn't do shots like this, which is just full of... The files are just huge. That ship is an enormous file. It's heavy
Right.
to move around the computer, and it became obvious that we didn't have the budget to do this stuff in 2K and do this stuff in film resolution quality, because it just takes up so much space. So what we did was we shot it on, we did the film, and once we transferred it to the HD, which is basically in a video resolution, you're able to do much more and much quicker.
Well, didn't you guys actually talk to Lucas's people back during this?
Lucas's guys were in the middle of developing the camera to actually shoot high definition.
Right.
And the cameras weren't quite ready yet, because you have to shoot 24 frame.
Right.
And it gets very technical, and we were like 6 months early.
Right.
And so, and I had never shot in digital, so I wanted to shoot on film. I really wanted to do that. But when the advantages of shooting it on film and going HD was that we had all this control later with the colors, as far as going
Right.
into the spirit and colorizing stuff. And just like this scene right here, I wanted it to be full of color and bright. I wanted the ship to feel very warm and comfortable and bright and happy.
In contrast to the opening, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
the opening is...
Right, it's gritty and dark because it's a different time. We jump 400 years in the future, and the ship should feel colorful, like her clothes. We should see the reds and feel the blues and see the textures and all that.
Right.
Like the wardrobe, Maxine Baker did a wonderful job. The textures on the clothes, I wanted to see them. And so everything has a lot of texture to it, and we were able to go in later and enhance that in the spirit, which was great. It's a really great system. And it allowed us to do all these effects. I mean, these ships. One of the spaceship shots, I'm not sure which one it is, it's one of the drive-bys. It's one of the explosion shots. It takes 22 days. Took 22 days just to render. I mean, that's just a huge, huge file.
Their second year, they're going to slow me down.
Just walk them through it.
They were there from the beginning to the end. I mean, we did everything there. We did the whole post-production in Toronto with Toy Box and the mixing stage, the whole thing, the whole ball of wax. And they really came through me. I mean, every single shot has some kind of effects. The background monitors are all added in later.
Those are green screen.
Yeah, green screen for half of them. Some of them we had on the day for moving shots, like this shot I think we had on the day. But a lot of it, I wasn't sure exactly what we wanted on the day, so we had to have green screen. And then added in later, which just is composites.
Honestly.
The scene in the lab where they're bringing Rowan back to life, didn't that scene used to be about 45 minutes long?
Yeah, when you wrote it like 45 minutes long.
Oh.
No, it was. This is...
You're the director.
Yeah, thank you. This scene actually, as you remember, was about 3 pages long. And I was handed a rewrite, I think, the day before we shot that scene. That it doubled and tripled the scene. Weren't you the writer?
Let's move on.
Why'd you do
No.
that? Anyway, so, I mean, this scene was about, her waking up on one side, Jason waking up on the other side.
Right.
And the contrast, what's going on there. And also just to see that these kids, these people on the ship are, they're competent, and they're smart, they're good at what they're doing, but they're also kids. And that's something that I wanted to be clear in the film, and I'm not sure if it actually is clear at the end of the day, but that these kids, they are kids. They're not professional scientists. They're students.
Right.
They're students on a field trip. And that was our whole concept from the beginning was students.
Originally, you talked about the ship actually being a school bus.
Yeah, I want it to look like a school bus. That's why the ship is actually yellow. That's the only holdover from school bus. We actually have designs that were in the computer. Originally, the front of it looked like one of those big old school buses. Yeah. It was really yellow. Actually, we wanted Laidlaw on the side.
Right.
And the driver was this, old crusty guy driving this thing. Make it more down and dirty than we actually ended up with. Again, we had some creative differences, I guess, were shown where he didn't think that it was believable that guys like that could man a ship and be responsible for a ship, but I just felt that it was interesting and added some color to the characters, because that was the other thing that I wanted to do in this. As you know, we both talked about it, was to try to get interesting characters and not just one-dimensional characters.
Right.
The problem with the Jason movie is that you introduce people and then you kill them.
Right.
You know, so you have to always constantly trying to find ways to
So you need to introduce them in a unique way, give them character quirks and stuff like that.
do things that are character driven that can happen quickly, so you get to know them, so you feel something when they die. I mean, you know, there's certain rules. I mean, that's one of the things we talked about in the first meeting. There are certain rules in a Jason movie. One of the things I didn't like is you got this formula. Everyone dies, one girl ends up and she runs around tripping over dead bodies all over the place, and that's something we wanted to avoid. But, you know, you've got a guy in a hockey mask and he's killing people, and you don't have time to introduce and go into depth with every character, but you try.
Well, it's the reason that most critics don't like these sort of movies, because Jason has no real motivation.
Yes, he does. He's pure evil.
That's not really a story arc, though.
It can be.
It's just a guy running around killing people. We've seen that before.
You know, the good thing about Jason is that Jason is the boogeyman. He is scary. He is which I like about Jason is he's merciless. You can talk your way out of.
Right.
You think you can talk your way out of Freddy Krueger? Maybe you can make a deal with him. Hey,
Jason's a T-Rex.
Yeah, he's but the thing is you can't talk your way out of a situation with Jason. He's going to kill you no matter what, and no matter who you are, which I think is creepy.
Which is why Jason has a tiny brain, because he's a T-Rex.
He does have a tiny brain.
Complete. Internal defib in 3, 2, 1.
When they were bringing Rowan back to life, there's a lot of actual technical jargon that is real science. We were researching technology that's kind of theoretical today, but could happen in the future. One of those technologies is nanotechnology, and we use these little nano ants. And what the theory is that you can build these little robots that will go down to the molecular level and be able to repair stuff in people. So we've said, okay, this technology now exists for our movie. What kind of doors does this open up for us? And one of them was, you know, the reanimation of frozen people, which you can't do today, but, you know, maybe one day you can. Maybe in the year 2455. And it also allowed us to rebuild Jason.
Easy.
Did you get him? Where is he? Tell me about him.
Let's talk about the world Cunningham Productions, because I started there, I guess, in 96. I believe it was 96. I probably met you around that time.
Yeah.
And we, at Cunningham Productions, we were doing a lot of dramas at the time, scripts. I was writing dramas. And what I love are thrillers, action, comedy. And I'm a big fan of horror.
Yeah.
But as far as, I tend to move toward action. So that's probably why there was more action in the original script. That's a big reason why we know Jason is, we know who Jason is right off the bat, pretty much.
Right.
There's no mystery who's killing. The audience knows, our characters know.
Right. I mean, one of our goals at the beginning, remember, is that we wanted, I mean, I definitely wanted to kind of mix the genres up a bit.
Right.
You know, I wanted to add a whole bunch of effects. And once you came in with Jason in space, it was obvious that we're gonna be dealing with sci-fi.
Right.
We're gonna be dealing with much more action. I mean, that opening scene was huge.
Yeah.
And the whole point was to set a tone to the movie.
That this isn't your normal Stalker in the Woods movie.
It's not just a slow-paced Stalker in the Woods. There's action, there's sci-fi, and also a little more humor than we've seen in other Jason movies. That's what I really wanted to put into it, was a little bit of humor. And not making fun of it, but just having, you know, saying that it's okay to laugh at a,
Right.
you know, at a moment, if it's if it's character driven. But I thought it was important for us to try to make it very clear. It's not just a horror movie. It's not.
Well, I don't think we could have. I mean, there are those who argue with me, but I don't think we could have done another horror movie. I don't think Jason is scary anymore. I think people are too used to him, and I don't think you can tell. I mean, I guess you can. There's no impossible, but I felt like it would be. We could have a lot of fun with an action movie with Jason as the anti-hero.
Ultimately, we wanted to do something totally different.
Right.
And doing a Jason movie in space in the future, giving kids, you know, these guys some intelligence, giving them the tools, tons of special effects, you know, and really good effects, not
Right.
you know, not cheesy effects, but you know, let's get some good people involved, give good effects and action, and make it different and just feel different and maybe fresh. I felt personally that I have seen the Jason movies over and over again, the same kind of formula.
Right.
And right or wrong, we may be totally wrong. I mean, we're wrong a lot, so that's okay.
I've been wrong once or twice.
At least just like the last minute.
No.
Yeah. So
Me? No.
So,
You've
I mean,
been wrong in the last.
the hardcore fans, I don't know. I've heard it a couple different ways. I've heard that some of the hardcore fans find it very refreshing.
Right.
I've heard that they want to go back to the lake, that
Right.
they miss the old number one, just down and dirty in the woodshed?
Early on, I started sneaking into websites. Friday the 13th Film, that was Blake Washer's website.
Right.
It's just about Friday the 13th movies, and there are dozens of places like that on the net. And I used to sneak in there and just to sort of see what the feel was, see what's going on, see what they like, see what they don't like. And it seemed like as the movie was in production and as it was in development, it leaked out. People had heard rumors about Uber Jason. They'd heard rumors about Jason in space. And at first there was sort of a backlash, but everybody kept an open mind. And I would say for the most part, the fans enjoyed the movie.
I think so. We'll see. It's still, your verdict, I think, is still out a bit.
So what's up with your twisted sex scenes?
I like my twisted sex scenes. I only have one. I could only do one in here. I mean, as you remember, I always had this idea of starting up really close on a little nipple, like twister thing. But I wanted to be like macro close to it. Like you felt like you're on another planet.
Right.
Like you get this like a nipple and it looks like, there's like this weird giant like moon or something. And then you kind of pull back slowly and it turns out to be
I remember going into you saying, I'm thinking about Janessa walking into Lowe's office and she says, look, she's very sexy, and she said, I want to discuss our midterm. And then we cut out of that. And you were like, okay, as long as she has these giant nipple clamps.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to have nipple clamps. It's in the future. That's what they did.
You're the director.
Oh, poor baby. No wonder you wore this thing.
Oh, there we go. I have to say, Jonathan did an excellent job of this particular part. They
both had a good time.
They did have a good time. It was fun. But I really wanted to be like super, super tight and just like not like think we're like in some other alien planet and hear this weird noise going on.
Did you ever close the set on stuff like this, or were you a sleaze?
I did this at my house actually on the weekend. I closed the set but they got all their clothes on. It's like and they're just having fun with it. So it wasn't a big deal.
Well,
but we did close the set at the end where we actually show boobies. So we're actually moving up to probably one of our more spectacular kills here, which we might want to talk about, because one of our goals in doing this movie, again, we sit around at a conference table and we talk about, okay, we have X amount of people, and other than all the things we want to do with the story and the plot and the characters, we have to kill them off in creative ways. I mean, I didn't want to just kill people off with blades as much as I could.
Right.
So this was actually one of the first ones, and this is probably our flagship kill for the movie, and it's very complicated.
Well, the kill was. So
here's some breasts. Here's some breasts.
Those aren't real.
How can you say
real?
that? Oh, you're right. Darn. Anyway.
What is she wearing? Is she wearing it?
She's weird. We hired her from a circus because she actually can do this.
Have nipples?
No, she can do this for real. On command, she can make her nipples fall off.
Right,
and that's why she has the part.
Are they like magnetic?
Yeah, there's like it's weird. I don't know. It's like a real science thing. I don't know.
I would think that would chafe.
I don't know. No, but that's a prosthetic piece.
Look, you're the director.
No, shut up. That's a prosthetic piece that Stéphane Dupuis, genius Stéphane Dupuis, made and sculpted her breasts. They're not even her real breasts. I hate to tell you guys, those are not her real breasts.
So wait. So she goes in there so Stéphane can put junk all over
on her breasts. They do a whole alginate cast, and then they re-sculpt her breast, and then they put this prosthetic on her on the day. And then Stéphane's actually behind there with this little wire, and the nipples are literally just weighted.
I like that scene. It's one of the 4 scenes I actually wrote in this movie.
It's the most simple effect. You literally just pull a string, and the nipple falls off.
Now, this was brilliant. Let's just talk about how brilliant. Jason's waking up because 2 kids are having sex.
Well, that's what we wanted. I'm not sure if it plays as well as we imagine it, but
Well, you're the director.
Yeah, well.
Now, let me say, when I wrote it, it was brilliant.
And all the other movies, you and I both talked about it, we didn't want some hokey, like electricity in the lake wakes him up. And our idea was just...
I must go take a shower now.
Right. So sex...
Yeah, we didn't want to do that.
Sex wakes him up. So have sex, he can just feel it. He wakes up.
Brilliant.
So we're getting to this death. This is a really complicated death. We had multiple passes of the camera underneath the water, this dry ice gag. And then we had prosthetics for her face. We had a CG.
How many times did you shoot the actual attack?
This one?
This one, yeah.
We shot about 3 times.
Is this the only one where Jason grabs her boobies, or?
No, this is the only one that actually held on more. She's doing all the fighting here. Jason's...
No, I know. That's how Kane...
Kane's just trying to hold on to her.
This poor girl, we put her through hell. We had a camera underneath just a sink. We had a glass bottom sink. And we had put tracking markers on her face so the computer could track her motions and movements. And we just kept dunking her into this bucket. I felt so bad for her at the end of the day. But we knew that her head had to smash, and insides and brains and stuff like that had to come out that were kind of icy. So what we had to do was find a polymer that we could make a face of, that we could paint on and make look human, at least for the few frames that it's on screen before it's smashed, and then have it just break apart as if it was a chunk of frozen ice. So we poured that into her body cast, and just Kane took this and just smashed it against the table. I think we had 2 of them, actually. One of them, the MPA made us cut, because when he pulls her back into frame, she's just got this like cereal bowl skull thing happening there, and it's just really nasty. So they asked us to tone that one down, so we went to the alternate take, which actually ended up cutting much better. The previous shot was composed a bit more perfectly, but when we used the actions just matched that much better, and we were like, oh, great.
What I want in this scene is for it to be very warm and feel very comfortable. And Derek Underschultz, our director of photography, as you know, did a brilliant job of lighting every shot. I mean, every part of the movie. We were so short a time shooting-wise. As you remember, we were have to do 30 shots a day. So Derek actually... Effect shots as well, but just setups and tons of effect shots. So we pre-lit the set, and he had this great, system set up, so the whole set was pre-lit. And John Donnerman was my production designer, and he did an amazing job with building these sets. I mean, the good part about going in the future and being in space is that we're kind of away from Crystal Lake and we do what we want. The downside to it is that you have to create everything.
Well, what made you decide to go a bright future as opposed to the dark future?
The gritty,
of
dark thing. Well, my feeling was the dark, gritty thing has been done. We've seen it in Aliens. It just gets to feel dirty after a while. And I love the look, and I think it worked for those movies. Again, I wanted to try something different. I wanted to create a situation here where it feels warm, and we feel safe, and she feels safe, and the kids are safe. And then when Jason wakes up and starts killing everybody, things start to deteriorate. And we did that in the lighting. We also did that, though, in post through Spirit. We took color out of the movie slowly. Once Jason starts to wake up and things become a little more contrasty and a little colder, we added some blue. So it just felt like things are getting a little more claustrophobic and a little more dangerous and gritty. But scenes like this, like the lab, it's a very complicated thing to shoot. And when you're doing so many shots a day, Derek really had to be on his toes, and he had to pre-light things. We had to make a lot of decisions early so we could literally go from shot to shot. All the lights in the cabinets and on the walls, and they're all on dimmers, and they're all, and all that kind of stuff. He did an amazing job. And the sets here, I mean, they cost some money, but they've got depth to them. And you feel like we were actually on a spaceship, which I really wanted, because nothing worse than not spending the money and making it look like, a low-rent cheesy thing. So we really tried to find a look. That's why the costumes are kind of bright and sexy and not kind of dark and like camo stuff or whatever. I wanted to find that thing where it was modern in the future, but still kids, young people wearing stuff. I mean, Derek was phenomenal with the look of the movie, again, especially since we just had no time. You really should do 10, 15 shots a day, and you're doing 30. It's just impossible to detail out every single shot and take the time.
Did you ever get behind?
Get behind?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We didn't have any overtime either. So we had to get 30 shots a day with 0 overtime. So we had, at 8 o'clock or at whatever time our, plug was pulled, we had to move on.
First day shooting was actually my scene, wasn't it?
It was your scene.
And I remember Dean Lorry calling me the night before saying, no pressure. Said, but, you should realize this is your first movie and all, and if you screw this up, you really set the tone for the rest of the shoot.
It's true.
No pressure.
It was a hard day, too. Working with novice actors, Christ.
What are you going to do?
It's one thing if you got a novice writer, but a novice actor as well.
You cast the jerk.
I know.
The chick? Repeat, we have a hostile on board. Grunt team, report to weapons. Everyone else, get to lab 1.
Baby, I'm not ready yet.
Hurry up.
The blood thing on her, I remember that shot. It was the last shot of the night. We're all dead tired. I knew that if we put blood on her, we got one shot at it because we don't have the time to clean her up because this stuff always stains a little bit. Kelly Lipkowski, my visual effects supervisor, who's also just doing everything else too, he had a syringe full of blood, and I said, okay, aim for the chest. Get her at the chest because that's a bigger area. And you won't miss. And I got to get this in one shot, and we got to go home. I'm getting everybody's, the AD and the production manager's like, okay, time to get out of here. Because I told her, I said, look, I don't know where this is going to go, but once you get hit with anything, you got to act it out. So sure enough, it's like
he shot her right in the cornea.
He just shot her in the. Didn't mean to. He felt really bad. Got her right in the face. Oh man, I felt.
Well, that's why she was screaming because she was in pain.
She was in pain. Well, she wasn't in pain. Come on, she's an actor. Yeah. They like this stuff.
Evil
but
man.
She was totally surprised. That's for sure.
There's a process called film timing, which is where you color the film and make every shot look like it was shot in the same place, in the same day, and the same time. When the character Dallas, who's played by Todd Farmer, is in the game grid, the original picture on that was a very deep blue. And as you can see from the print, it's kind of amber and yellow. The normal lab process for that takes weeks and weeks. For us, it took 2.5 days on a computer machine. I would do this process again in a second.
This is actually the very first shot of the movie.
That's the first day.
The very first day and the first shot.
Do you remember how many years I worked on this hit and roll, which only lasts for about a nanosecond?
I know. There you go. It was because you couldn't get it right. You kept missing your mark.
It's because you guys put these pylons, so I had to roll right through them.
You kept hitting your head like a little girl. I was like, oh, hey.
No, I had a helmet. That didn't bother me.
No, it was lame. But no, you're really good though.
This is what the crew like to refer to as the cum shot, which I'll never live down.
Oh, great. Yeah, I know you.
You can't get over that.
But this, and Derek actually did an amazing job on this scene particularly because we were, by this time, even though it was our first day of shooting, on the production side, building sets wise, we just ran out of money. We just ran out of money and we had to kind of trim sets and things. And so he got these pillar things here that he found outside and just added neon strips to them. And then placed them. This is actually our cargo bay, which is normally our cargo bay where your other scene in, right? And we have all our stuff. So we just moved everything away, put these stands in, put the neon lights on, and smoked it up. I wanted water dripping and things.
Well, the first VR was originally like a basketball rink of some sort.
It was.
So people could come in and actually watch a VR game, but couldn't afford that.
Yes, it does. Okay, screw this. Game over.
I wanted to concentrate on the effects in this scene, not necessarily the set, so that it worked out fine. The whole point of this scene is that you think you're dead, and then suddenly, oh my God, it's a VR, and play with that a little bit.
And then you come back to the color.
And this is the empty cargo bay. We just stripped it down and hoping that we believe that it's a different room.
Hey, drop the kid! Drop the kid!
That is acting right there, by the way, Bubba.
Yeah, I know you're yelling, and you got to put a gun in your hand.
I know. Look at that.
Look, you really look kind of worried there.
No.
We had to use a stunt double for most of this.
But look at this stunt double right here. Boy, is she beautiful.
She is. And actually, that was a really hard stunt. It doesn't look like it, but it was.
No, it was a female. It was a lady.
So here, that shot right there, the stunt man broke his nose.
The one where you're seeing from behind me.
Yeah. And it wasn't on purpose.
I remember that because I was outside with Melanie, who was up visiting.
You didn't want to watch it because you're all scared.
No, I did want to watch. I actually remember me saying, why do we have to use a stunt guy for this? And Steve was like, no, we have to use a stunt guy. And I was like, but it's just a pad. I'm going to hit a pad. Melanie and I are outside, and we hear the crack.
Oh, you could hear it.
You come in there, and this guy's an hombre. He's a big fella.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy.
He's almost as big as me.
Wolverine. No. He's much bigger than you. He's the guy that Wolverine fights at the beginning of X-Men.
Right.
And he's a good guy. And he was sitting there. He was in some pain.
He broke his nose. I went up to him and I was really upset about it because there's blood everywhere. My kids actually showed up the first day on the set. They showed up, and my daughter, who's 9 now, so how old she was then? You do the math. She's sitting beside me, and the stunt guy sits on an apple box. He's holding his nose, and
there's just blood
dripping everywhere. And my daughter India's looking at me going, Dad, I think I want to go home now. No, it's not always like this. It's not always like this.
People criticize those two deaths because there's not enough gore. But you know what? Those are the only 2 deaths that were actually dangerous.
I know.
Because you got some girl landing on cement face first and not budging.
I know.
And then you got a guy
She did
cracking
great.
his skull.
And I went up to him and said, "Hey, oh man, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" Because I, felt bad. I don't know why I felt bad. I just like, "Oh man, this is really bad. Are you okay?" And he just looked at me and goes, "Are you gonna use it?" I go, "Oh, it looked great." He goes, "Oh, okay, I'm okay then."
I remember that.
I want some more meat. Yeah.
He was an hombre. Boy, he was huge.
He was big.
He was a monster.
He was good, but it was a good scene. We didn't have any other accents. Everybody keeps asking me about stories on the sets, but we didn't have time to have any. I don't know. We didn't have any weird stories.
When I was there, I guess I was there, 4 weeks?
Something like that.
If I wasn't acting or if I wasn't in makeup, I was writing.
Right.
All the time.
I know.
And I remember when you went in this.
So that whole thing, when I had those production meetings early on, and I said, "Okay, Sean, Noel, Todd, we have to go into this film with a locked script." Did you all just go to the bathroom when I said that and missed that comment?
Let's go joking aside for a moment.
Oh dear.
This was not my choice.
I know. I know. It's not your fault.
You
did good.
I did
You did
more
good.
drafts on this movie than I probably will for the next 10 years.
That's because your career's over. But that's true. You did go through a bunch of drafts, and you were just doing what you were told. I understand that. But anyway, that was difficult. We went into it with effects like this.
The crew hated me. Anytime I would show up, the crew looked at me with just pure
Can you
hatred.
imagine breaking down the script every other day?
I know.
I mean, the problem with it is that when you do an effects movie, they're so detail-oriented, you have to have a script that you can prepare the effects for. Otherwise, I mean, just stuff like this where you have a scene where I wanted this whole kind of moment where there's this weird guy, have this kind of weird garden in this thing, and it's kind of this strange little moment, and he's our little mechanic guy. But things didn't evolve until later, so sometimes you're in a situation where the guys are having to slap things together, which is what the situation you don't want to be in when you do an effects movie. But, we had limited time and money, so people did what they could do. And at the end of the day, stuff I think looks fine. You always look back and think what you could do differently, and I look at every scene and there's something I could do differently.
Well, the only thing I could have done differently is stayed in Texas.
That's true. But then you wouldn't be sitting here right now with me. You're right, you should have stayed in Texas. Yeah, that's right.
I was living in Texas. A friend's girlfriend had gone to high school with Dean Laurie, who came in at the 11th hour and put Jason into the Jason Goes to Hell script. He and I started talking, hit it off, and he said, "If you want to do this, you got to move to L.A." So I loaded up the pickup with a garbage bag full of clothes and my computer, moved to L.A. And within a month, I was working for Sean. And
good for you.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you worked for
I could have been a plumber.
You could have, and you could have been making some real money right now.
I know.
What the hell's going on here? Touch. Out now. Oh, you wrecked my stuff, man.
This was always our moment where we thought, okay, this sets up the Grunt's death. I wanted a lot of the characters, like our Fat Lou and like Crush, have a little bit of kind of thing going on.
Right.
That was actually Steve, our stuntman, plays Condor.
Right.
And the stunts were good. Stunts.
No, they were.
It's again, we have situations where I really wanted to bump up the action and have like the KM battle, really have her flying around and
right.
It comes to a point where you realize you need weeks to shoot that kind of stuff. So
right.
you suddenly, as you remember, we're paring it down. I mean, I was blocking scenes maybe a couple of days before because the stuff we originally wanted to do, it just would take huge wire rigs and huge teams of people coming, like Matrix style stuff or X-Men type stuff. And you realize those things, man, they take huge setup. And if you don't have the money, you got to find other ways to do it. And so a lot of it was just tricky kind of choreography and the KM fight was probably the one we had to deal with the most. I really wanted the sound effects in this movie to be rich and full, and I wanted us to feel like we're in a ship. When I saw this in the theater, though, just in a normal theater, the sound was horrible. It was because this is a 5:1 mix, and you never know where it's going to be screened, but in the good theater with good sound system, you can really feel the ship all around you, and when the ship flies by and the exterior shots, it soars over your head and goes in the back, and it's really cool. They did a really good job.
the screw was yours because you came to me with a drawing.
Right.
And you didn't even have to say any more than that. You just show me the drawing.
Right.
It sort of screamed for death.
Right.
Because it was a drawing of this great big monster truck kind of thing with this enormous screw pointing in the air. Is that what it was?
It was. It was a truck. It was like, there's a truck thing, and I said somebody has to fall on this. So make it happen.
There was always a mining drill written into the script, etc. And it wasn't until we got this whole big mining drill thing, we had some conceptual sketches. We saw it, and it was just like, it would be great. As if he just goes up and like spins him down like a propeller. And then all of a sudden, call up the makeup guys and say, hey, guess what? We got to figure out a way to spin this guy down the big corkscrew.
Sarge, we found Condor.
What's his condition?
So did you write the he screwed line?
Hey, you're the writer, man. I didn't, I'm not taking credit for any writing.
No, you're taking credit for that one. That's the one you called me and said, no, she must say he's screwed.
Yeah, but you know what? That has been in and out of the movie. I took it in and out of the movie about 5 times. Oh, yeah. In many different cuts of the film. I took it out because I thought it was too silly.
Yeah.
Then I played it in front of an audience. With it in first. I played it with it in, and they loved it. They laughed.
Well, you know what? You can't believe it. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Then I cut it out. I showed it again, and people came up to me who were, I think it was the sound guys actually, came up to me and said, What happened to that line? I love that line. He's screwed. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll put it back in. So I put it back in, and it gets a laugh.
I know. Every time I hear it, it makes me want to drink.
That's interesting. This scene here is probably one of our more brutal, realistic kind of prosthetic effects. But as you know, I stayed away from too much gore.
Right.
Part of it was my own taste. Part of it was I didn't want it to be just a slasher film. And that was part of our whole theme at the beginning was, let's make it sci-fi and action and a little more humor and a little more interesting and maybe try to get away from just the gore for gore's sake. I wanted to have gore in there when it was necessary.
Right.
The Adrian death, I wanted to show that and make it a big deal because it was an interesting effect and it looked weird. And here I wanted to show some of the deaths. But in general, we stayed away from the gore for a couple of reasons. One, from my own taste, but also you get into a situation, you start making it gory and bloody and all those things, which is great for maybe a director's cut or something, but then you get chopped to pieces.
What did the MPAA take out? Or would they request be taken out?
They didn't take out this, okay, which I was shocked at.
They took out a couple of frames, didn't they?
No.
No, none of that?
They didn't touch the scene, which totally surprised me. I was terrified. We did our cut. We gave it to the MPAA. I had the condor falling into your screwed, which is pretty bloody. Stuff like this one here with the blood. I thought for sure I'd be trimming this stuff. I thought for sure I'd take out Kicker crawling across the floor. We knew that we'd take that out.
But we thought we would lose Adrian for sure.
As it turns out, we sent it in. They were great to us, and all I had to cut out was a few frames of your screwed, the screw, because we left a lot in there. It was kind of over the top, but we had to pull out 12, 15 frames of that, maybe a little bit more. Adrian's death, we did have to pull a couple of frames. He pulls her head up, the body up without a head, and we kind of dwell on it for a beat and then throw it down. We kind of had to trim that around. Didn't touch the kicker, didn't touch any of this. They didn't really change anything because what I did was we cut around this stuff. I mean, we shot around it, so I had myself covered.
Fans come back and say, well, if the MPAA was good to you, then you didn't have enough gore?
They could, and I just won't listen to that. Yes, they could, and
well, I hope they still don't have the receipt for the DVD.
No, they definitely could, but we actually have a lot of gore in this movie.
No, we do. And the gore that we have is pretty good.
It's a little more interesting, and we do have gore. I think what happened is kind of the inside scoop that I heard is the MPA actually enjoyed the movie. Yeah. They understood that
you
what
believe
gore
that?
was.
I've heard that too.
I guess I believe it. You know, I don't know. But they said that they had a good time watching it. They realized we were trying to do something other than just make a slasher movie. Right. There has to be gore in a horror film where you've got a guy running around with a machete killing people. You're going to have gore. You have to show some of it.
Right.
And as long as you show it and it's true to the story, then they'll let it go. If you just have, if you dwell on some guy's, you know, beating heart, you know, open in his chest and he's holding it, looking at it before he dies, and you dwell on it for 10 minutes, they're going to see that this is just something you're putting in there to show teenagers because they want to see blood and guts. At that point, you'll be ripped to pieces. And what they do is then they start looking at other things you've done in the film and start cutting that very tight. And I just wanted to tell a story. There's gore in the story, but that's was not foremost in my you know, goals to make this a blood fest. Now I'm sure that there's guys who are going to watch and go, man, I want to see more breasts and I want to see more heads blowing up and I want to see more blood and guts. But we have more kills in this movie, and like I say, it's different than the other Jason
There's some very creative kills, and it's understandable. You have to I guess you have to second guess what you think they're going to do. The MPAA.
Sort of, and you don't want to do that, though. That's why I think we were okay, because we were true to our story. We decided to take a certain approach, right or wrong. We decided to take an approach, and we took it. And where I felt I needed gore, I showed gore. Now, I constantly shot it in different angles, not knowing how that they would respond to it. You know, Sean was adamant about trimming the gore. I mean, not even going there with the stuff, because he's been beaten up by these guys before, and he kept making me, you know, when we're writing a scene and so-and-so does this and we rip this, and he's like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that.
There was a scene where somebody gets actually, well, it's similar to what happens with Azrael in the VR scene where he gets kind of chopped in half from the shoulder down, except that happened, where that looks life. VR, it happened real life.
Right.
Look, we're gonna be all right. He's trapped in the cargo bay. We're locked up in here.
Can the Solaris grunts kill him?
Absolutely. I've been in constant contact with Solaris. They have 60 highly trained professionals standing by to get us off this ship.
Solaris to Grendel. Pull up. Abort docking. You're coming in too fast. Grendel.
What now?
This is a huge effects mode. This whole sequence. This is a combination of CG. All those. The whole city is CG.
Yeah.
But the explosions were big, huge models that we built. They were like 15 feet high, and the ship was about 20 feet long. And for all the explosion stuff, you know, we shot this whole second unit and put the models up and blew them up in different ways. And the whole thing had to be added with a bunch of CG shots.
Right.
In fact, all the ships turned out to have CG renderings on them.
What did you think about the actual modeling in that?
On the CG stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I love Toy Box, and I think their work was brilliant, but I thought the models sort of I thought it looked like a model ship flying into a model city.
I was happy with the way they looked. Again, given the amount of shots we tried to cram in the movie.
Right.
You know, our goal was always to fill the movie with a lot of stuff and to kind of have fun with it. And
why go model as opposed to CG in that situation?
That was CG for most of it. We shot models for the explosions. You want the organic explosion. You want the pieces flying around in an organic way. I mean, you have an explosion, there's a certain amount of chaos there that you can't recreate. So that we shot the models for the explosions. The actual models of them flying through the air, all that stuff CG. Is totally CG.
But the explosions, I didn't know that. I think I probably didn't know that.
All the explosions.
Because I'm not that stupid. I'm very smart.
Yeah, but you know. So, I mean, given more time, we probably want to have a little more texture on these things, a little more aging and all that kind of stuff. But you just, you know, at some point you just run out. But for the amount of shots we did, the guys did absolutely awesome.
No, they did.
I mean, there's, like I say, 350 visual effect shots.
Well, you know, just in little stuff, too. The shot of Grendel leaving Earth.
Right.
Or is it Beowulf? I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah, that stuff looks great.
It's beautiful.
Derek Underschultz was the director of photography, and he was local. He was Canadian from Toronto. We actually interviewed a lot of directors of photography, but Derek really sparked to our idea of shooting 35 and then transferring to high def. He thought that was just a terrific idea and understood what we were trying to do and the latitude that it would give us later on down the line.
I was never there for any of the lab
You weren't
work.
there for me at all. I mean, if you want to talk
I was
about
never
that.
there for any of the lab work because that set wasn't finished. I never saw the lab.
The lab was a good set.
Yeah, it was. It looked great, but it was up in the air, wasn't it? Like, wasn't it like on a...
There's a huge platform at the in the middle of Lab 1.
But that's the lab where they actually bring Rowan back to life, right?
Lab 1's where they bring Rowan, and then Lab 2 is when Jason wakes up. And then that's when we had a little miscommunication with our...
What's up, pray tell?
Well, the effects and the production designer. Do you remember when we had planned that Jason would... The whole point of having Lab 1 and Lab 2 was...
Oh, so he could jump through.
Was that at some point, Jason's going to crash through from Lab 2 to Lab 1, right? And all the guys are at the door, and yada, yada. So one of the first things I told John, our production designer, is you got to make a window big enough for Jason to crash through.
Right.
So he's like a really big guy. So he's got to crash through it.
So wasn't there like a...
Well, the window was like this rectangle on its side. It's like maybe 5 feet wide and 6 feet long.
Kane had to be a little like one of those little dogs on the Animal Network jumping through the hoop.
Yeah, basically. So Kane comes to me like the day before we shoot and goes, Jim, I can't jump through that thing.
Because number one, it was shorter than he was, wasn't it?
It was shorter and it was narrow.
There was a 2-foot step.
Right. He'd have to leap head first.
He'd have to leap and crouch.
So we had
be like a little leprechaun.
Right.
Wait, didn't they do Leprechaun in Space?
They did, and that's kind of what the homage.
Well,
the whole window thing is like an homage to that.
New Line Cinema didn't make this thing. This is a negative pickup. Right?
No, they didn't. What happened is we had to get the green light or the go-ahead from New Line. But basically what this is Sean Cunningham owns Jason. They agree to buy the movie at the end of the day when we're done making a movie. They agree to buy it for X amount. They agreed to basically write Sean a check when we're done.
Right.
And so
we could have made the movie for $2 million.
Well, we could have. Or we could have made a musical comedy and sold it to them. I don't think they would have cared. But the way a negative pickup deal works is you have an agreement from a company, a distributor like New Line, who agrees to distribute the movie and at the end of the day buy your hard costs. And so you go off and you make the movie. You come back, you deliver them the movie. They write you a check, and then they do whatever they want to it.
We didn't have studio notes. We didn't have
any of that stuff. We just went to Canada and made the movie. I mean, they have to, at the end of the day, buy it unless we, decided to...
grossly ignore...
Totally make it different.
What we said we were going to do.
I think the biggest problem we had, just speaking with the New Line situation, is that the week that we delivered is when Mike DeLuca left. And so we had this movie, and with that, I think a lot of executives and people left at New Line, and they were going
and
through...
And he was the executive who...
He gave us the green light.
I mean, so therefore, we had a movie sitting on their shelf, and there was no executive there who was involved.
Nobody was attached to the project.
It had a foreign release before we even had an announcement for a release here in the States.
Yeah. And New Line had a relationship with Toy Box. New Line had worked with them on The Cell. And so when we approached New Line to say, okay, we're going to shoot and film and go digital, no one had done that before. So it was a really weird kind of delivery system. And they were hesitant. But when I said, look, it's really the same thing you did on The Cell that they did for you, but we're just doing it for the whole movie.
Right.
And they trusted Dennis and Toy Box and all that, and they knew that they understood the technical problems that they would have with that. And so they were very knowledgeable about that kind of stuff. We could talk to them about technical stuff.
Whoa! You know how to use that thing? Yep. It's just like riding.
On this film, they let us do our own thing, which was nice. Not that they, I think, would have objected to anything. We weren't trying to pull the wool over their eyes or trick them or get away with something, but it just made it the day-to-day production that much easier. I mean, we still have to, since the deal was based on a script that existed once. We couldn't bring him a script for Jason Goes to Space, and then all of a sudden show up with a film with him in, a church in the desert. That wouldn't fly. But, it's a fair representation of the script that we presented them and what we told them it was going to be, and they let us go and do it.
There's absolutely no chance for us to better our...
We had dummies of Kane frozen around the set, laying on stretchers and stuff. So I believe these were Jim's children. During a birthday party, they came by the set, and they brought their friends. It was 10 or 12 friends, and, it was a really pretty cool set. It was big, and it was impressive, so they're all walking around. Well, we go and show them the frozen Kane dummy, and then Kane goes into the prop locker and lays down on the floor, and he's all in Jason makeup, and then we bring the kids into the prop locker and are showing them props. And then we point to Kane, who's lying motionless on the floor like a dummy. Goes, here's another Kane dummy. And all the kids kind of gather around, and we're like, yeah, look how real he looks. Look how real. And all of a sudden, Kane just leaps up. He's like, roar! And all these kids just go running and screaming away. It was just hysterical. And, we'll probably get psychotherapy bills for a while in the future, but that was really pretty good.
But if he's in here, he's gonna kill us in quiet.
Jimmy?
Yes, sir.
Did you watch Jason movies when you were growing up?
I didn't that much. I did the first one. I loved the first one.
First one scared me.
Yeah, the first one was very scary, and I think I liked it because of that, because it was really scary. But I think that things have changed since then. I don't think you can do that picture now and still be scary.
No, you can't.
You have to add to it, and you have to make it more complex. So many scary movies out there, or attempts to be scary. I think that it's very difficult. For me, this movie wasn't about just being scary for me. It was about trying to do something different and new. But the scary factor here is about the idea of Jason, in particular, who's this killing machine who can be anywhere, anytime. I mean, he has this gift of showing up where you least expect them, or where you do expect them, and you try to add a little suspense, so that when he shows up, you're scared. The problem is that he tends to, show up in kind of one-dimensional ways.
I really did think of it like a T-Rex. I thought of it as Jurassic Park was an action movie, but it was scary to me because you just couldn't stop this thing. And that's what I thought of with Jason. Because what's really scary to me is The Exorcist, suspense. And I don't know that you can do that with Jason anymore because he's just been around so long.
I mean, to me, one of the scariest movies and also the more interesting horror films would be The Shining. Mm-hmm. There's certain suspense you have, but again, you're dealing with kind of complex characters. And with Jason, he is a shark. He is more of a T-Rex. And the problem with him, which as long as you embrace it, then I think it's okay, is that he's a little one-dimensional.
Right.
Because unlike a T-Rex can move fast. He's on your ass right away, and that is scary because you cannot outrun him ultimately. You can outrun Jason. So what we try to do is say that you can outrun him, but he also can somehow, you'll go out through one door, he'll be in the front door, or you think he's in the back door and he comes around. We never show how he gets around. He just appears in places where you don't want him. And hopefully you do that enough that you're on edge because you don't know where he's going to show up, and if he's going to show up.
Right.
And I think that that's scary.
Well, you have scare moments like with Adrian. I mean, the audience jumps when he reaches in and grabs her.
Yeah, and then
that's a moment. But
it's true. But there's a difference between scare and jumps.
But it's not a suspenseful moment. It's not.
And we build a little suspense with her in that she's working. He's laying there behind her. We know he's going to wake up at some point. We just don't know when.
Yeah, but it's not the same as crawling over the body in Scream 2 when the cab crashes and they have to crawl across him.
Right.
It's a different kind of suspense, and it's because we know Jason so well.
Yeah.
He's become an icon. He won the MTV Person of the Century Award or whatever it was back when they first started that, and they did it as a joke. But the fact was, it was a slap in the face to the critics because Jason has sustained because the fans are there.
Right.
And as odd as they may be, us included.
I hear you.
We might be ready to go.
This was always a difficult moment for us. I think this is kind of in our midpoint of trying to get, story-wise, we wanted to get the momentum moving to the point where Adrian tries to get away in the shuttle, and she dies in this way of just she freaks out.
Hey, what? Microsoft conflict.
Yeah.
I think that's number 3 of my lines that remains into the movie.
Quiet. That's not number 3. You don't have any lines in this movie.
No, that was my line.
No, was it?
Yeah. Okay, maybe it was number 2.
Very good.
Okay, you were saying something unimportant that I interrupted.
Building up to this Adrian death. This is what this is all about. And again, it's one of those things where we wanted to show her as this woman is falling apart. In fact, our original idea, I think, was in Night of the Living Dead. Mm-hmm. I love that girl who just totally freaks.
Yeah.
And she's just freaked through the whole thing. And that was kind of my idea with Kensa, is to have her be this completely on edge, freaked girl. And ended up playing it a little bit differently, but I think that was our goal, to show this woman who just completely cannot handle it. The point of this is that they are all working together. They know Jason's out there. He's stalking them. The ship is crashing or is falling apart because of the things that Jason has done, and now they have to work as a team to try to get this together. And of course, she screws it up by jumping the gun and panicking, and which speaks to the stuff we talked about before about having these people know what's going on and try to deal with it in some way, and not just run around the ship going, oh my God, Jason's out there. Actually deal with it in some way.
Right.
This effect stuff here was a monster effect because it is totally 100% CG.
Right.
It is.
Well, I remember there was discussion about cutting this, wasn't there?
I think it
was behind my back, but I heard about it later.
But it doesn't work because, as you said it many times, I mean, I never wanted to cut this because it is very important to plot point. It's very important at this point in the movie because the movie changes from here on. We've tried to do what we can do to get the shuttle going and make the right choices to move forward, and this guy's picking people off one by one. But now, literally, I mean, they literally get their back against the wall here.
Right.
I mean, there is no place to run.
This was the moment we originally talked about. This is where they decide, okay, we're going to fight back.
Which then gets us to the point of where we've talked about before of them creating a monster or creating some kind of tool and actually killing Jason. When we think that we're really screwed, and the whole point of this scene here is at the moment where our back is against the wall, we are completely dead. Jason's blown away.
Actually, I just phased out for a minute. I think I lost you back at hello, my name is Jim.
Shut up.
Movie looks good, though.
Movie looks good. Did I tell you that we shot this on film and we...
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Okay, fine, whatever. We did have a scene much like this where Sonoran is off doing his thing. And
Why do you say Sonoran? We have to stop and talk about that. It's Sonoran.
Oh, sorry, God.
Have you seen the word tsunami?
Can we just talk about me for a minute?
Do you call it tsunami?
Fine.
And they say Sonoran in the movie.
Do they?
Yeah, because you say it that way.
Well, of course, I'm the director. I get to say stuff like that.
I forgot that part.
There was only one stunt, I believe, that we didn't want Kane to do. The wire gag where KM shoots Kane by the shuttle bay door. Kane absolutely could have done it and has done it a number of times before. But with him playing our lead character and all the suits molded to fit him specifically, if something had gone wrong, we just couldn't afford to have that happen. He did everything else in the Killer KM fight where Kane strapped on 27 or 28 squibs. He was walking around with over 150 pounds of gunpowder and wires strapped to his body. At the time, it was a world record, but you'd never get a regular actor to do anything like that. It's really nice to have somebody who understands, from a stuntman point of view, what the other actors need to do, or they can work with the stunt people and talk the same language, because you never want anybody to get hurt.
You originally had a lot more with this fight scene, right?
We did. Part of that was just pacing. She actually shot him, and then she moved around, and they stalked each other, and she shot up these mirrors, and he wasn't there, he was there, and it was a very cool scene. But in the pace of this moment in the movie, it just took us in the wrong direction. We had to get the fight moving in a certain momentum.
Cam started off as just, I think, a floating orb at first. It was just kind of a knowledge droid and was kind of the exposition guy. So whenever we needed to know something, this droid would have the answer, and then you'd just go on with it. You know, it was kind of a device like that. And then as the character became a character, it became like a little robot on treads, kind of like a, Robbie the Robot kind of thing, and it would spit out the facts that we needed to know. So what our kids originally in an earlier draft decided to do was to cannibalize a lot of weapons and a lot of big things that they couldn't handle onto this robot. It would just go and destroy Jason, which I guess is kind of think the Ed 2000 from the RoboCop series, with just the big arms that are guns. And then eventually it turned into the woman playing it, Lisa Ryder, who did a terrific job, of course.
Lisa was great. She had fun with it, and it's clear.
She had a good time, and I really wanted her to embrace this new character as if it's, wow, this is something, wow, I can do this now? She totally got into the role, and she did exactly what I needed her to do to sell KM. We did a little costume change and gave her some cool guns, but ultimately it was the way that she played KM, and that was, I'm this now cool, sexy.
Absolutely. When you can't spend the money on the budget, it goes back to performance.
It's got to
go. She's
the
one who saved it.
Yeah,
so.
We wrestled with it because we just couldn't do it. So Stefan came up with a great drawing, and Maxine and Stefan and Kelly all kind of worked together to create this. I had this whole idea where she pulled out guns from everywhere, and she just kept, having guns and throwing them away and shooting them.
Originally, she was going to have a machine gun actually attached to her arm, right?
Her arm was going to be part biomechanical.
Right.
And she was going to be this hybrid. Problem is, the script was so dense, we had so much stuff to do that the movie would have been like 3 hours long. So we had to find ways to tell the story quickly.
It's a good thing we cut it down to, 90 minutes? Because the movie-going suicide rate would have gone up tremendously had we gone 3 hours with this movie.
This is true. So what I decided to do here with KM is change her personality more than physically. She's kind of this robot who's not very emotional. She wants to be emotional. She wants to be real. Originally, the idea was that her whole goal in life was to become human and fall in love with what's his face. I think they have
Tsunami?
sex. Like he gives her an upload.
Yeah, he gave her an upload.
Yeah,
that's right.
Gives her an upload. In fact, I think we even had a scene at one point written where we actually see them get an upload. Didn't we?
I don't know. Did I ever?
Something like that. Maybe so.
I don't
But anyway,
know.
we trimmed it down.
We wanted to throw a twist into the movie, and since we were in space, I can't remember who it was, but I remember the word biomechanoid, just from an early development meeting. Jason just gets torn apart, and with the technology of the future, he's able to become rebuilt. And, initially some of the earlier thoughts were it's just like exposed muscle and, wires and metal and circuits, kind of like a bionic arm. Then after Stefan refined it a while, it became much more and more like, a little bit RoboCop, a little bit black leather, which was really pretty cool. I liked getting the chrome mask in. On the Jason Goes to Hell poster, they had a chrome hockey mask that, I've been trying to get into Freddy and Jason or this movie. And we finally kind of got the chrome mask in this one.
Jason, in my view, is the boogeyman, I guess. Jason is evil, and he's pure evil. In contrast to somebody like Freddy Krueger, who has a lot of bells and whistles, and he's got a character, he's got a personality, he's got this whole complex agenda going on usually. Jason has a very simple agenda, and that is to kill. And he wants to kill and needs to kill teenagers, but will kill anybody that is in his way. And again, what I like about him is he's absolutely merciless. I mean, you cannot stop him and try to talk your way out of it. With Jason, you just can't go there. It doesn't matter if you're a little child or if you're an old woman. He will kill you if you're in his way. That's, to me, who Jason is.
That's why critics don't like Jason.
He's very simple, which I like in a way. It's just pure. He just is there. There's no hidden agenda with him.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good points outside of he's got a fine singing voice.
He does have a fine singing voice.
Yeah. You don't hear that in a lot of movies.
No, you don't. We had a cut of that.
It's sort of like, does a tree make noise when it falls in the woods? A lot of people aren't out there when he sings. Do you remember the scene where we were going to actually remove everything from his body from the first few movies?
Yes.
Or the first 9 movies?
We're going to have like bullets.
And fish scales and screwdrivers and whatever was in there would be removed and pulled to the side.
It was more of a machine. Like right now you'd have this big machine where he's going through this like an X-ray machine kind of thing. And then on the other end is like
All
these
this
nuts and
stuff
bolts.
shooting.
We didn't do that.
We didn't?
No.
That was a shame.
So what we came up with was the nanotechnology, which I think is cool because it's something based in reality. And these little nano ants, we've seen repair Rowan earlier, so we know it works. We go in.
Microscopic robotics.
Thank you. But now the lab that once was a good lab is now a lab for evil.
So what's bringing Jason back? There's 2 theories here. It's the theory that it's just a malfunction, or it's a theory that it's actually the power of Jason.
Well, I'm not going to go there because I think that that's up to the audience. But, we play it like it is Jason right now, kind of. I mean, the computers say, abort because we're, there's not enough nanotech stuff.
So that's why the computers abort. They say there's not enough.
Yeah, and Jason's evil spirit overrides the situation, and the nano bugs search the room, gather up all this cool stuff from the lab, bring it together, and create this. This is our Uber Jason. And part of the thing that we talked about this before, the Jason character, as I remember, one of our goals, not only just creating a new Jason because visually it'll be spectacular and fun, but will allow Jason to move in different ways and be a little more powerful and a little more menacing and quicker. I mean, and move a little faster. The movie turns into much more of a comic book. I mean, I love the contrast in the way that KM plays off of Uber Jason. Those two look like they belong now in the same comic book, or the same world.
Were there shots that were cut out of that between Jason's being the nanotech and then showing up there?
We did trim a little bit of Uber Jason's reveal, which actually in hindsight I wish that I had a little more. Basically, we dragged it on forever. Jason's coming through that smoke. I mean, I shot it, all over the place, and then
I couldn't remember because I know there was actually a scene written at one point because he kills somebody between. But I know we cut that early, and I couldn't remember if you ever had shots of Jason coming to them as opposed to or
just coming through the smoke. And it was a matter of pacing. You make so many decisions as a director, and you get in the editing room and you have to look at pacing as overall as the film and how it moves overall.
I think we're finally okay.
I'd clap if I could.
Tiamat to Grendel.
Come in, Grendel.
We have you vectored for approach and emergency docking. You ready to get off that boat?
Yeah. Let's go home.
Part of our idea here was that our heroes continually get thrown the stuff. First as Jason wakes up, and then it's the ship is going to crash into the Solaris. Then they think they've killed Jason, but it becomes Uber Jason. Then they think they killed Uber Jason. Right now they think they killed Uber Jason.
Right, I was going to say, and vice versa, because, from Jason's perspective as well, because, he's killed. That's thrown at him. He comes back. He does this. They throw a lot at him. He throws a lot at them.
Right. The point here was to try to keep this story moving forward. And the goal, which we never had in the other movies, is that these characters have a true goal, which is not just to survive, but it's to get home, to go someplace. They're trying to get home. If you're at the lake, there's no place to go. Here they're actually trying to get home and they're trying to be proactive to do it. And Jason just keeps coming back and keeps doing his thing. And now as Uber Jason, it gets more revved up and more, which is, for me, more fun in the movie. I mean, from this point on, and the Crystal Lake stuff that we do later is, for me, the fun.
This death's been around for a long time, but I thought you guys milked this pretty well.
I actually wanted to see her, literally gag. What I want to do is do it in stages.
I'm with you.
Yeah, the hole is smashed through, and then she's holding on, so then she's going to be sucked through the hole. But then not on top of that, we have a grate that gets in the way.
This is kind of nice, though. I mean, was this your idea?
Well, yeah. Is that okay?
No, I'm serious. I like this. I do like this.
I'm Jim Isaac. I directed the movie. Nice to meet you. But then at the end of the day, we ran out of money and time, so I had to find a way to cheat the payoff in a way. What I wanted to do is I wanted to milk out the drama and the tension between them.
Right, but I do like this because what I wrote was Jason punches his fist through the hull and then Janessa gets sucked out.
Right.
That's not what's here, so I actually like this being stretched out. Although I wish we had the money for the effects to.
Well, it's either just make more of it. Just make more of a big deal of it. I wanted to do a shot of POV of just her body just coming right at us, that kind of thing. There's been debate about, the air has been sucking out of this thing, and then. But then the door falls down and the air is still not sucking out. Right. It equalizes. Did you ever hear that word?
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking.
It equalizes, and that's what happens 400 years in the future.
Silly
They have this great technology of it, this thing that equalizes that kind of situation. So, I bought it when I shot it.
For many of these sets, we had grids built above the sets, which had lighting, had the big lights hanging off. So we had guys on scaffoldings crawling in the rafters and moving stuff around. They were hanging 40, 50 feet off the ground. It was so much fun to watch.
EVA, what's EVA?
It's a spacewalk. If you can jump the lines out there, we can reroute them from in here. Hopefully that door will open and we can get off this thing before it blows the hell up.
Sounds like a good plan.
Tiamat, this is Grendel. Our escape hatch is jammed. We're going EVA to try to patch it up.
You'd better get a move on.
It's the continual battle to get home, and every time they try to do it, something goes wrong.
Right.
And now they think they've killed Uber, and they can't get through the door. And we needed, again, a device for them to have to go through one more hurdle to get home, to get to their safety line. And
man, did we come up with a brilliant device.
the door won't open. I mean, that's a problem, isn't it? They want to get in that room and the door won't open. And we actually had...
That's not what I was referring to, but that's funny.
Well, what were you referring to?
Well, we came up with a brilliant distraction, basically.
Oh, the
VR.
Oh, yeah,
VR
that
a
was
brilliant
in there from the
distraction.
beginning. No, that's great.
I still wish we had Rowan going after him. Personally, I think I know that the movie was long. We didn't have time to shoot it, but...
Well, yeah. Originally, in our, I mean, one of the concepts we absolutely loved, and I think that was really important to me anyway, was when we do this distraction and we create this virtual reality
VR
set.
world.
We go into this, Crystal Lake.
Right. This was Mark Haslett's idea. Do you remember Mark?
I do remember Mark. Mark's a good guy.
Mark was a VP of production at Crystal Lake. It was his idea to take it back to Crystal Lake.
And I loved it, and I really wanted to stay here for a long time. I wanted to actually, originally, remember we had a scene where it turns into the VR, and then he hears this person drowning in the lake and crying, Jason, Jason, Jason. Turns out to be Jason's mother who's drowning, and when he goes to save her, pulls her up by the hair, and half of her is all just wireframe.
That's what you would have shot. That's not what I wrote.
Oh, you wrote that he
drowned in her.
Well, first we pulled.
How beautiful is that? That's the only way to show that Jason had actually emotionally changed. Is he reaches down and drowns his mother.
But first he pulled it up and saw it was wireframe.
Yeah, but then that takes the effect away because now it's not his mother. It's a
Tell me, why
computer.
why would Jason kill his mother? Did you ever watch it in the movie? He loves his mother.
I know he loves his mother, but now we have created this new Uber Jason. So is it just going to be the same Jason but with the physical body, or is he going to be a different Jason?
Needless
I'm
to
not
say,
saying that movie would have ever gotten made.
We couldn't get the mom, so we had to change it.
But even before that, we used to have Rowan go and lead Jason astray while Sonaran's doing all this.
Which I like that as well. This is a very complicated effect shot. We shot as shot. It's literally there's some trees and stuff, but mainly the whole thing is just a big old blue screen, green screen actually.
Right.
So we pull back in this big shot, and all that in the water, as you can actually see the edge of the ship.
Yeah,
and
I love how
wanted
the ship bleeds through. That's great.
Yeah, I wanted to see the walls of the ship through the water.
Yeah.
And so it's all like you can see the corners that have the actual ship, but it's still water there. And that's all CG water. Right. It's the whole thing. If you saw the original shot, it literally is Uber Jason standing there with a couple of trees around him. Like that's a real part of the set. But the rest is all just a big old green screen.
Now we used to put Jason's mother in here.
Yeah, we
as
also
a
had
distraction.
If you know, we had Jason's mother here. We also had big white bunnies in this scene.
Big white bunnies, topless volleyball players.
We had women playing volleyball topless. We had this whole wild, really weird scene where he's just going through this
dominatrix at one point.
Yeah, we had weird stuff going on.
It's a big pink bunny rabbit.
He did, and the pink bunny ran up to him and said, "I'm a fluffy bunny," and then he pulled out his machete and chopped the bunny in half.
Right.
We had all kinds of wild, wacky things, but those aren't in the movie.
That's probably the most brilliant movie dialogue.
I'm a wacky bunny.
No, right there.
Oh, sorry.
Which is not my dialogue, but it's brilliant. That was Noel's dialogue. Good stuff.
But so we replaced that stuff with this.
Oh, and there's boobs too, by the way, for those who didn't notice.
Right. We have our 4 boobs.
Whatever happened to my full frontal nudity shot, by the way?
It's in there. But
no, it's not in there. I have
really
gone through very slowly.
Have you seen yourself in a mirror? It's really hard to tell. It's in there.
No, I have seen myself.
So, and this is a homage to Jason number 7, I believe, where Jason.
I don't know. I haven't seen any of them.
Jason kills one camper with a sleeping bag. So I wanted to just have Uber Jason.
It was always a favorite.
Yeah, I wanted to have Uber Jason really go for it.
Most of this movie is that. It's an homage to one movie or another, whether they be Jason movies or something else. But
and that's probably one of my favorite little moments there, the campers and the Uber Jason. He looks pretty cool there. I actually originally wanted Uber Jason to hold the 2 campers in one in each arm and swing them around and then swing him in the middle and hit. But Kane...
said Jason wouldn't do that?
Yeah, Jason wouldn't do that. It was also very awkward. This didn't look right. But
Kane's a nut.
I do know Kane's a nut. Do we all know that Kane... Do we tell about Kane's tattoo?
We love him.
We do love him. But Kane's a nut.
And Jimmy and I together would have a tough time taking him.
Oh, I can't take him.
Jimmy wouldn't be any help at all.
I could take him.
I guess Kane could use Jimmy to beat on me.
Pretty good. I could be a little Jimmy stick.
But he is a nut.
Yeah. So this stuff here, this is all stuff we did in the Spirit, all that colorization and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That actually worked really well to give the VR a different look. Like all of this has a different look to it. And this little tube that we had to put up because we had a real problem from again, we ran out of money, so we had to make this big. And I think those tubes are they're like shower curtains. Those are like shower. They're like this big shower curtain material. It's like we had
people have gone off on this. I love Uber Jason. He looks great.
Yeah, who doesn't like Uber Jason?
I mean, the design-wise, there were two ways to design it. One was kind of crisp and clean, which is what it is, and one's sort of, I don't know, junkyard kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think this looks great.
They can do number 11, and they can change them. That was a model, just so you know.
That looked good.
That was a good explosion.
And this looks good.
Yeah, this is all very difficult.
He just
stuff.
will not stop coming.
You know, wrapping up a movie.
That looked horrible.
Shut up. Wrapping up a movie. This is a good shot. This is a full.
That's a good shot, but
by the way, both of those are totally 100% CG.
This isn't The Fly. There's no teleportation.
Be quiet.
He can't teleport from Grendel to sliding. Okay. No.
But those are 100% CG. Two characters, which actually work out really well. 100% CG shot. Both characters.
He's gone.
So I mean, if you remember.
I do, probably.
Trying to wrap this up in a way that's kind of clean. We have our, our typical Jeyshawnx, and you've got to have a couple people survive. But then at the end of every one of these movies, he either gets blown up, or he gets electrocuted, or he goes to hell, or whatever it is. So my feeling was, let's just send him in the atmosphere. Let's blow him up as a star. If you remember, which I think works out pretty well. Huh. I think that's a good way to kill him off. And
somebody on one of the message boards said, "Why is it Jason only survives an hour and a half?"
Right.
He always comes back.
He's got a short lifespan.
Shooting star.
Well, we have these two people. Everything else is green screen, and everything's created in CG world. And what I wanted to try to do is have this kind of beautiful. It's our only peek at Earth 2. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, serene, quiet.
It was originally going to be you and Kane in that shot, right?
It was. Kane and I were going to be there, but he didn't want to kiss me.
Landed in the lake.
No,
you were
it was
not
a different
going to
scene.
do sugar.
No, it was a different scene.
There were kids.
No, we were camping, and Kane and I were going to play like these two guys with, with kids running around and doing all that.
You're still in the movie, though. You're in the opening sequence.
I am in the opening sequence. I am. I'm the doctor that gives him a shot.
You're the one that gives him a shot. That was a good opening sequence.
That was a good opening. We haven't talked about that opening sequence.
No.
That opening sequence was really cool because
I think we were talking about
Toy Box guys did it for me for pennies, and it's 100% CG stuff. Other than some of the live action stuff we shot of me doing little shots, but all that moving through and all that, really good 3D animation stuff for. I hate to say it, but next to nothing. It looked really good. Yeah. Did a great job. A lot of it was Kelly Lipkowski, Stefan Dupuis, all these people just working twice as hard, and trying to put every single dime. I mean, Marilyn Stonehouse, our production manager, she looks at a dime about 10 times before she spins it. I mean, every dime went on the screen, and that's what we had to do to do it.
Well, I mean, not just those guys. I mean, it was myself and the actors we were selling crack.
Well, that's true, and that helped a lot. Yeah, that got us over the hump there.
I thought so.
Yeah, big morale boost that was.
Well, it always is.
But, and I gotta say, Derek Underschultz and Walter Gasparovic, my AD, I mean, these guys, they worked their butts off for next to nothing and around the clock and really believed that we could try to make something a little bit different. It was kind of impossible, but I think that with using the technology that exists, I think that at the end of the day, it looks pretty darn good. And
I agree.
I'm pretty happy with how it worked out.
There will always be a place in society for horror. I mean, hell, the first written story was Beowulf. It's such a violent, gory, bloody story. And look at grim fairy tales. Grim fairy tales are brutal. I mean, they're so much more brutal than anything else that we have here. I mean, Hansel and Gretel, everyone knows the story. What is it? Well, it's the stepmother says, I don't want to feed the kids anymore, so has the dad lead them into the forest to leave them to starve to death. And if that's not bad enough, they get sucked in by this witch who's fattening up so they can eat them. These are terrible, awful stories. If you were to shoot that Hansel and Gretel movie today, it'd just be like, people would be like, what the hell are you doing? But you read that story to children all the time. I think what stories like that, what it allows us to do is put a lot of our fears in front of us and something we can look at and kind of push away and deal with. Like Hansel and Gretel, it's, children's fear that their parents aren't going to love them or, they'll abandon them. And at the end of that story, the father comes back and everything's okay. But with serial killers like Freddy or Jason or Michael Myers, what you get is a manifestation or a representation of, untimely death. Everyone knows somebody in high school who died in a car wreck or something like that. And, it's really hard to deal with. But when you have something like Jason out there, Jason kind of represents that untimely death, that death that shouldn't happen to us because, we didn't live. It's not our fault. It's beyond our control. You watch it and you see Jason stalking some kid, you can sit in the audience and you're safe and you're dealing with it, but you're still going through it and getting through it on the other side. And when you walk out, you've kind of gone through the emotional ride of it, but, you're still safe and nobody really died. There will always be a need for that, just in the human psyche. And that's, we tell stories to explain and to deal with the things around us and the things that are going to happen to us.
It's great being here. This is Jim Isaac signing off. Thanks, that was great.
This is Todd Farmer, your local monkey with a keyboard, and it's been a pleasure.
I guess that's it. The movie's over. It's time for me to go home. Hopefully we'll get your friends to buy DVDs, and then we'll make another one, and we will just keep making them. That's about it. All right, I'm out.